G'day watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today, I am featuring a piece from a company I've never really heard of before, Nubeo. Now, I thought this was their first one, but it isn't. They are a solar time company. So if you're familiar with solar time, you know, they do spinnaker and many other things. Now, this packaging is a bit cardboardy, and it's a bit grippy, so that's probably only about a 3 out of 5. And, you know, I think made for recycling, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but, you know, just beware, it is all just cardboard. Now, this kind of just lifts up. I think they really have a MO of doing space and sea type watches. This one's called the Ecliptic, so this is to do with the apparent orbit the sun takes around the earth, right? I think that's what the Ecliptic means. Just a basic manual, I'm not going to go through it, and a warranty card that sits there. And let's just pop the watch out, put the packaging away, open this up, and gonna of course show this to you guys in closer detail. So guys, this is the Nubeo Ecliptic Retrograde Dual Time limited edition. Apparently 100 pieces. I'm not sure how true that is, but that's really what they've said. You know, I think this is, they actually numbered this as 47. So I guess I should feel pretty lucky that I've got a piece like this. NB6096-04 is the particular model number of this red colored edition. Now the MSRP on the website is 850. So they've done a full 850 price for this watch. The discount price right now, I just checked it, coming up at 550, and maybe that should be the discussion point. I doubt this will actually sell at 850. Now it does come in a number of different colors, yellow, white, blue, black, black and gold and whatnot. Take a look at the website and screenshots. If you're interested in the other colorways. I thought, I wanted something bright and attractive, so I went a bit nuts and got the red one here. Right, so first up, as usual, movement. Now, I have to admit, I thought this was a mechanical. Somehow I assumed that I shouldn't have, but it's actually a quartz, so that's on me. But anyway, this is a quartz movement. It is the Citizen Miyota GP03. Zero jewel movement apparently, but it does have a 24-hour display at 10 o'clock, a retrograde time hand at 7 o'clock, and a big date display. Now this is not just a standard date, it's actually a large date at the 4 o'clock position here. And I will show you the activation of the date as we go along. Now this movement usually has the date at 3, and the retrograde at 6 and 24-hour at 9, but they've rotated this, which is no bad thing. So hence the crown adjustment at the 4 o'clock position that you can kind of see there. Okay, so it's a quartz. I'm not going to talk about accuracy. Plus or minus 15 seconds per month is really what you expect from a quartz. Now, just to show the date operation here, so you can see, hopefully you can see that window there. Okay, so this is, you can see that, right? That size date, you won't actually be able to fit all the numbers around. You won't be able to fit 31 numbers. So it's got actually a double wheel. If you look up pictures of this movement, there's actually a double wheel in there to let you fit all 31 days of the calendar. So that's kind of cool. Now retrograde time, I'm just going to turn this now. So you can see that time hand going, right? The dual time, the second time display at the 7 o'clock position here. So as I go to the 24-hour hand, look at that. It's kind of cool, actually. I think that's kind of cool. Let's just let you see that again. As you go to 24 hours, right, it springs back to 0. So that's really what the retrograde spring, the retrograde in the name is referencing, right? That particular hand there. Okay, so enough about the movement. Let's move on to the case here. So this is a 45mm wide case, okay? So obviously, that dimension there is actually a little bit less. I think that I'll put a measure here once I get the calipers on, but I think that's going to be about 40 or 39. I'll put the measure here, how wide it is between my thumbs there, where those indents are. But the full width of the case is 45, 46.5 if you take into account the thickness of these plates, these side plates here, okay? 15mm thickness is what this is. and 26 millimeter lug width. Okay, so that's really what these lug widths are. It's like kind of hidden under lugs here. There is no lug to lug distance as such, but the case height, if you will, between my thumbnails here is 44 millimeters here. Overall weight on silicon rubber is 141 grams. So, you know, not heavy, but it is actually top heavy because the silicon rubber weighs hardly anything. So all the weight is in this hefty case here. In terms of finishing, right, polished top angle, right, a bit of matte blasting in these indents here. Hopefully that's evident, you know, in the lighting that I have here. Okay, a bit of matte blasting there. There's a polished bottom bevel as well that you can see there, and it's got long brushing along the side. Okay, it's all black PVD coated, so you can't really see it very well, but there is some finishing in there, which is, you know, all right. And there's also a bit of brushing at the bottom surface, like there. Hopefully that's also visible. Okay, so there's brushing along the case, but case back, I should say, and of course laser printing to kind of show you the details, as well as, you know, partly explaining the name, that ecliptic, the orbit of the sun around the Earth, or at least the perceived orbit or path of the sun around the Earth. That's what ecliptic is. So this case back is curved, which is pretty cool. So look at that on the side here, right? It's got a curve here. It's 4 screw secured here. It's got push crowns, right? These crowns are signed and nicely coated as well. You know, that's black, that's red, obviously, but they are not screwed down. So the overall water rating of this watch is only 50 meters, which is okay, right? For a watch like this, that's what you can kind of expect. You're not going to get a dive style, you know, type of performance here. Moving on to the dial then. So, you know, this is kind of where a lot of the action is, of course. This is a multi-layered dial. You can see it straight away, right? It's got a honeycomb type of base pattern in black there. It's got a triangular multi-textured plate, which kind of flies across the dial here and, you know, finishes at the 24-hour hand at the 10 o'clock position here. Lots of different textures, you know, brush and polish. And it's got the description of, you know, much of the types of function of the watch, you know, retrograde, dual time, whatever. And it's got a floating index ring around the periphery here. Now, there are only 7 indices here, and that's counting the 12 numeral, because some of them are cut out by the dials and whatnot, you know, which is kind of, you know, kind of funky, a little bit jaunty, I suppose. But you'd have to, you know, just take note, there are only 7 glowing indices here. There is a dual tone 24-hour wheel at the 10 o'clock. So there's not a hand at the 10 o'clock. They've transformed that into a wheel. And it's got a retrograde dual time display at 7 o'clock, which I've showed you as well. And it's got a textured arch, you know, which shows you the 24-hour scale there. Type of spring, you know, I don't know what they're going for. I guess cyberpunk-y type housing around the periphery where this squares off the dial here, right? Okay, it's lots of little work that has gone into the dial to make it full of little details, which, you know, some people would like. You know, this is really full of action here. There is Lume on the 7 indices, the 3 main hands, as well as the retrograde hand. It's not fantastic. It doesn't go all the way through the night. I'll put a Lume shot here for you guys to see how it glows in the dark. Okay, so you've noticed this already. There is an internal aluminum rotating bezel, and I'll just show you the action here. Okay, so that's really how it is. I guess they're going for some sort of timing effect. Obviously not a dive watch, but you get a timing effect. It doesn't really glow, so, you know, don't expect to be able to use this in the dark. Above the dial is a curved mineral crystal. Now, I wish this was sapphire, but this is curved mineral crystal. I like it how they've gone for a curve. That's not something I see a lot of. In fact, quite rare. It's not domed, it's not flat. It curves with the watch on the wrist there. Okay, that's the entire case. Now, moving on to the strap here. This is fairly simple. It's a red patterned silicon rubber with custom black hardware, right? That's very much a custom type of thing. Kind of cool. There's a bit of a skeletonization there. And that's the watch. Let's put on the wrist for a wrist shot for you guys now. And there you have it, guys, the Nubeo Ecliptic Retrograde dual time. So remember, it is a large watch, 45mm wide, 44 case height, 15 tall. Definitely a lot of wrist presence because it's a square watch. And you know, it would be large for many people, kind of just able to carry it. Probably, you know, strictly speaking, it is too large for my 17 centimeter wrists. That's how the red looks like. And the red's pretty cool. I do like how it is really quite bright and attractive in that way. Okay, so pros and cons. What have I liked about this? Look, I think this is definitely an interesting and different design. There's no doubt about it. It really is quite different. The bright colors, you know, in terms of this watch, as well as the other colorways, do attract conversation. It definitely has, you know, made people stop me and ask about the watch, about what this is about. Lots of elements and interest in the dial, which I've described here, and it really is quite solid fit and finishing, I have to say. You know, the way they've done these plates as well, the whole feel of the watch is solid. And I think that's really tends to be the case with Solar Time. Definitely Spinnaker usually do very good case finishing and builds here. The coating is all right? No complaints there. It really is finished pretty well. So I don't know whether it'll last the test of time, but so far, so good, I have to say, on first impression. And I like the curve idea here, right? That's pretty funky here. The things that might be of concern, well, look, it's a curved glass that's sticking out. Really, this needs to be sapphires. They've done mineral, right? That is what it is. The dial, perhaps for many people, lots happening here. Probably a little bit too busy, in my opinion. I think they might have done okay just toning the interest down a bit. You know, of course, you can make this a lot simpler. Some watches using this movement are a lot simpler. This one definitely is on the other end of the scale in terms of busyness. Not everyone will like that. Look, I think there's a purpose in this design in terms of the solidity, you know, how chunky it is. You know, it really feels like a solid piece, but it's a quartz movement. It's only 4.5 millimeters thick in specs. So I reckon, you know, making it thinner would have been more preferable by more people. You know, I feel that, you know, I think they should have shaved off at least 2 millimeters from this case, and probably it would be more appealing to a broader range of people. As it is top heavy. You know, I mentioned that, you know, the rubber weighs hardly anything. All the weight, almost all the weight is in the case here. So it does feel top heavy on the wrist. I think the retrograde 24-hour hand, that's definitely very interesting. But honestly, I think a central GMT, if you wanted that, is more preferable. Probably to most people, you know, I would say definitely preferable to me. Some people like that funkiness. Let me know what your preference is. But, you know, my own feeling, central GMT just keeps it simpler. And then lastly, of course, the pricing. You know, I don't think you can move this for $850. I think that's just fantasy thinking. Even at $500 for a quartz watch, maybe pushing it. You know, I suspect most of you will, you know, want to consider this only at around the under 400 range, perhaps. Definitely original, definitely design work, but hey, with all the specs that it is, I suspect that's around the going rate expected for a watch like this. And there we go. That's my thoughts on this watch, the Nubeo Ecliptic Retrograde Dual Time. Let me know what you think below. Thank you guys for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you next time.